are truly challenged to be seen as experts in the products that they represent. And why not? This is true across the world, even for a B2C segment or a high precision industrial B2B segment, any which way you look at it. So let's start off the journey with a small poll. Here, we'd like to know your opinion in terms of how efficient are sales reps in your experience buying any product. So Chari, over to you for a short poll.
Okay, here's a poll. I'm sure you can now see this question. What percentage of sales reps can recall and communicate brand messages accurately anytime? It'd be great to give your opinion.
We are waiting for your responses.
Yes. Please, I'll be stopping the poll in another 5-6 minutes. Not 5-6 minutes, that's a long time, in another minute.
So think about your own personal experiences as consumers. Think about your own buying experiences as buyers if you're a B2B buyer. Think about your own sales experiences if you're a seller.
Okay, so we have a good set of people. Vinay Dixit is saying he cannot see the poll. You should be able to see it's a pop-up which should be coming on Zoom. So, okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everybody. And so here is the results. So we have 20% of the people. Actually, 50%, 31% of the people said 50%, and 33% said 20%. And looks like a lot of people had some really good experience in sales, or they are really good salespeople themselves, and hence they believe that they are doing a good job recalling and communicating brand messages accurately. So you have 28% of the people saying 75%. Oh wow, there's one person who says 90%. They're really, really very good. And we have a couple of people saying 10%. Yeah, so over to you.
Thank you very much. Research says that less than 2 out of 10, it's in high teens actually, the percentage is in high teens, that a sales rep can expertly talk about their own product. Now let me explain what this means. If you're an enthusiast buyer, you would want to know from the sales rep that you're dealing with, not just the sales specifications, much, much beyond. So for example, if you were looking for a mobile phone and somebody would come and tell you all the specs about RAM and memory, etc., that's commodity. But if somebody were to tell you a little bit more about the Dolby Atmos functionality that it has and what it does to the sound clarity while you're listening to music and many other elements, then you would start getting engaged as a buyer. So a sales rep starts engaging the buyer in the moment you throw an expert or value-added conversation out there. Now, imagine you've taken your car for servicing and you have the workshop garage mechanic tells you you need an oil change. Of course, it's a service. But he also talks to you about the titanium enriched lubricant that is available. Then suddenly it's got your fancy. But you already knew about that titanium enriched lubricant. Now you say, so what? It is expensive. But then if he comes and tells you the specific properties of titanium, and then he actually goes deeper down and tells you why so. Was it the atomic particles, the physical properties? How does it mix and how does it behave in a start and stop scenario, high traffic, high pressure engine scenario? And then you've got the buyer. So an expert salesperson is someone who is truly valued in these interactions, wherein a superficial level of knowledge, we all have research. So we have a superficial level of knowledge, but in our sales interaction, every buyer is looking for an in-depth understanding of that product. I'll throw another stats at you. You know, 75% of buyers buy from a sales rep who is able to give them value added expertise. So, what does it say? It says two things. One is that the human interaction is truly valued. And despite the plethora of information that you are armed with, you still require some amount of guidance to help you choose the right stuff. And that's what a magic salesperson does. You know, not that the companies are not aware and not that the companies have not been trying this. For some time, we have seen, um, various departments double hatting to try and educate and try and build more sales effectiveness from a sales expertise point of view, from a product expertise point of view. But in the last 1 year alone, you would see that there is a 350% increase in job titles which formally call this out as sales enablement managers or channel expertise or operational expertise, sales operation expertise, and excellence. So this is a main trend that is happening. It is at the cusp of getting formalized, and companies are realizing the value of this. So, what are the challenges that one encounters? You know, people forget. It's a human brain, it's a human tendency. 90% of the knowledge that you receive in a classroom is forgotten within a month. This is obvious. All of us know this. And why so? Because there is a whole velocity of information, a whole volume of information that is thrown to people. You can't expect people to remember and cram it all up in their heads and bring it out at the right moment in minute detail. This then makes a very, very inefficient sales interaction, especially when you're looking for an expert advice from a sales guy. Remember, we are talking here not about somebody parroting out sales specs, product specs, but being able to hold an intelligent conversation, being able to be seen as an expert by the buyers, and therefore be able to take the sale forward. So 70% of people feel that they are vulnerable. They lack the exact tools and exact information when it is most needed. And when it is most needed is mostly out of the class while you are on your sales job delivering your goods. Now, it takes a long time for a salesperson to start becoming productive. And why is that so? Because people learn by doing. So you've got to practice. You've got to put all motions in practice. So when you are left out there on the field and you start with your sales conversations, go up to customers, the first few are very, very weak and underconfident sessions. And over a period of time, that expertise develops. But this confidence, the lack of confidence in the sales guys leads to a lot of churn. And you will see and observe that industries like insurance, multiple industries where there is a high churn. Companies battle with churn rates as high as 50% to, on an average about 20% is the churn rate. And this is because the sales rep feels vulnerable, feels underconfident while delivering the goods. And more so, as we move ahead and as we see the smart consumer coming on, the sales guys are constantly challenged for new information and expert advice. So what is sales readiness about then? Sales readiness is about equipping each individual. This is about each person, each individual, by use of technology to be skilled, knowledgeable, and confident, to be able to engage buyers in value-added conversations, who then are able to give them their trust and business as product experts. right? So sales readiness is enabling each salesperson. It's not a cohort. It's not just a team. A team is made of each salesperson. So how would you go about building that expertise in each salesperson is very critical. And this is where technology comes in handy. So with that context, let's move on into the best practices. We've distilled our experience into 5 best practices. So let's take a deep dive into each one of them. So the first one, define, design, and set the baseline. So imagine you want to construct a house. And when you want a house to be constructed, it is in your head that needs to be translated by means of an architect on paper as a plan. Then you need a builder to go and construct that house and finally furnish the house with an interior designer, right? So you get the drift. There are many stakeholders to the entire project, from crafting it from your mind, your imagination to make it real. Similarly, for a sales enablement role, there are multiple stakeholders. Marketing is responsible for brand and product communications, finding and fitting those right messages. Sales is responsible for all the sales reps and all the sales activities. And then HR can also come in to do training in some organizations. So it is absolutely vital for all these stakeholders to be fully aligned and aligned on clearly identifiable and measurable objectives. This is extremely important. But now some of you might think that, yeah, well, I already do that. You know, I know that when I'm launching a new product, I need to have my 500 sales guys trained. So what is the metric at hand that you are using these days? Say, okay, how many people have been trained? How many people have passed the quiz at the end of the session? And that's about it, right? So remember, people forget. And remember that you have a large team which is dispersed geographically. You have multiple teams and multiple channels, category A, category B. They have expertise in different products. So if you were to be able to say that, okay, I want the same lubricant company coming in and saying that I want my people in category A outlets to have 90% knowledge level about my product, which will include the nuances of why that titanium particle and what is it so special about that titanium particle. I would like them to know about this, and it is a measurable objective. Similarly, for a mobile phone company, it could be that, oh, well, I want them to know about this new functionality in the camera, the new functionality in the speaker system that I have embedded, and I want them to know at a level of 90%. So on a different cohort in your category B or category C partners, you may say that, okay, I could be giving them an allowance, but they should still have a knowledge level of 80%. So these are clearly identifiable objectives about the products that you would be able to list down to be able to have an effective game plan. Now, the way I've described this, inherent is the fact that there are multiple roles. There are people on the front line. There are people who are taking calls in offices. There are people on the field selling to partners, selling to SMEs, multiple people. And each of them is in a different hierarchy. There is a team leader who's supposed to actually have a higher level of knowledge versus somebody who is part of his team so that he can guide better. So depending on the cohort, depending on the category of the channel, depending on the roles specifically, you can craft out these measurable objectives very, very easily. Now, once again, this is beyond the classroom. I would like to know the level of knowledge at any given point in time, not just at the end of a classroom session. So there is an inherent mode of continuity of delivering and disseminating information and capturing this feedback from each individual about the progress. So as part of this, when you get out of the gate and when you get started, it is about knowing your baseline. And when you are able to assess people on the multiple dimensions of their knowledge, that sets a baseline. With that baseline, you know your target and what is the distance to be covered, for which role, what segment, etc. So this is an absolutely important, vital foundation to be put in place so that we are able to granularly go down in depth and be able to create experts out of each sales rep. This is what we found, that it is an absolute essential to be done first. Well, next, you will see that reflect on our own behavior as mobile consumers. We spend a lot of time on the mobile phone, reading a lot of stuff, interacting with things. A large part of our time is spent on social networks. And how does information flow in social networks? It flows in small chunks. It flows in cards. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp to an extent. That's how we consume information. That's how information is rapidly consumed, and you flick through, go to the next piece of information, and that's how you are consuming information very rapidly, yet fully engaged. Now, when you look at a learning environment, it is important to understand how the brain works and processes information. So when you give new information to anyone, the human brain is trying to link that piece of information with some existing piece of information that it already has. And then it tries to build a block as a foundation. When new knowledge is added, that adds to the older foundation. And that's how you build knowledge, from droplets of information into a sea of knowledge. So it's an important part to sequence the information correctly. And it is vitally important to ensure that these droplets are able to give one message, one concept, such that the brain has the power and the brain is able to link these, solidify those linkages, and convert that information into knowledge. Take a look at how an instructor would do it in a class. So after introducing a topic, there is enough time for reflection for everyone. We should be able to give a reflective pause and ask people some reflective questions so that they are able to make those linkages and solidify those linkages into proper knowledge. And this is where by adding to a sequence of messages, if it has reflective pauses wherein you have scenarios to check out on, you ask questions, you ask polls, you ask what would be the best way you would think that you would handle a situation. So you're letting the mind be exercised to actually understand that, comprehend that piece of information and convert it into knowledge. That's an important aspect. Just like in drip irrigation, each plant in a farm needs those specific small doses of water, specific small doses of nutrients. And that's what really nurtures that plant further into a proper, from a sapling into a proper plant, right? Now, doing it once is not enough. People will forget. So how would you ensure that people are able to remember, people are able to refresh this, and then reinforce this piece of knowledge or pieces of knowledge that you've provided into something that they can act upon and tangibly use in a conversation? So being able to remind, refresh, and therefore reinforce is a vital component. And once again, it is not just a one-off interaction, but it is a sequence of interactions that you need to take through to be able to nurture people. Would you ever flood the farm with a large hose, although people do it, but what would be more efficient? Drip feeding it. So in a similar vein, would you just throw PowerPoints and PDFs at people and expect them to mine through those pages and understand exactly where they lack? Many a times they don't even realize that they lack a particular skill or lack a particular nuance of a knowledge. So how would you expect them to become an expert if you don't provide that guidance? So it is about ensuring that you are drip feeding them with knowledge regularly. These are very key operative words in small doses, but continuity is important. While you are in your journey, there will be opportunities for you to drum up the excitement, drum up the energy, bring in the vibrations, the vibrancy into the entire journey for the person. When you launch a new product, for instance, you want people to be absolutely focused in terms of your priorities. When the following month you are talking about a different set of products or a portfolio of products, you want your sales reps to bring out the knowledge that they already have at the back of their mind, to be refreshed and polished, such that now they are able to spiel and talk intelligently as experts about what you want them to do so. Now, as sales enablement managers, if you had the magic power, if you had the lever to be able to ensure that you are able to divert people's attentions to your priorities, that would be gold. So look at contests from that perspective and look at how you would be able to, in real time, be able to change the points that you would be able to give bonus points, give accelerator points for topics that are more important for someone at that point in time. Now, this is also a guide to the learners, to your sales reps, right? So that they are motivated enough, they are looking at that topic much more diligently, and going about ensuring that they have the vital knowledge for those aspects. People get motivated with multiple dimensions. So there are three very important dimensions at play in a sales context. It is an intrinsic motivation to know that I am doing well and I am making progress. It is all about me and am I going to see progress in life. The second one is a peer level motivation, a social motivation. How well am I doing versus the rest of the crowd? And the third one is some material aspect. If you dangle a carrot, which is material enough, there is higher motivation, there is a higher boost for people to perform and get to that point. If you are able to blend these three in a very seamless user interaction, you've hit a home run. So let's see. Let's take an example. So at the end of a quiz, if you are able to tell me, the sales guy, the sales rep, Jawahar, you've scored 90 in this and good. Now your total has become 430 and you are 70 points away from that snazzy headset that you've been looking at. So there is clearly a distance from where I am to what target I probably would like to be. And another piece of information that I would be able to give you is, Jawahar, your score at 430 is amongst the top 20 percentile of 10,942 people like you in your community. What has that done? It has actually opened my eyes to something much larger than what I can perceive in my immediate surroundings. 10,000 people. I am part of a large tribe. That itself is a big validation for me on the job at hand and my association with the brand and my association with what I am doing. So my belongingness to a tribe is significant, and that itself is a big motivation. I get motivated by multiple levels and then ensure that I am able to see that whatever I'm doing, my performance counts at the end of the day. So if you're able to distill these experiences, well-researched social and behavioral science topics into a user experience, you have literally got a motivated person and you've hit them in the heart. You've started engaging them much deeper than a normal way, than just the normal rational self. The fourth best practice we talk about is nudge, nudge, nudge intelligently. Let me take you all to the beginning of your careers. And if you've been sales guys, most of us would actually go back and realize that there was that one nice manager or a senior colleague who I could count upon, to tell me during an informal conversation over a coffee break or a water cooler conversation, how to handle that sticky customer situation that I am in. How do I manage that customer objection, which no manual tells me, because all the manuals have just spelled out the specs, but I need to actually have an intelligent conversation and drive value for my product, which I don't know where to find. But that friendly coach, that friendly manager, that friendly peer has helped me do that. How many of you relate to this? I am sure most of you would. I do. Now imagine this person who's a coach to you is also doing it to your peers. He knows that Jawahar is a morning person and I am very, very perceptive and I plan my day and I'm great at opening up new leads. That's my forte. Whereas Sam, my colleague, is a great closer. He closes deals well, but he has far and few leads. But whatever he gets to, he's able to go through the funnel and close those leads very, very effectively. And then you have Tim, who is very, very smart. He's a great talker and an overconfident guy. And by virtue of that, he doesn't pay much attention to the product knowledge itself because he feels confident and he goofs up there, right? So the manager knows this, and the manager is able to define exactly what nudge and what piece of advice I should be giving to each one individually. And that's the personalization that is counted upon. This is a deep tech problem. This problem can't be managed at scale of tens of thousands of people. A human being can do it for a manager, a coach could do it for people in their close vicinity, in their same location. And then there are managers with different styles. So if you want to look at a large cohort of a few hundred people to a million people across the world, how do you drive consistency in your sales expertise, in your sales readiness, build out to your teams? It is also not about just throwing in information and flooding people with nudges. Let me give you a very simple example. You would normally think that, okay, let me send out a nudge, let me send out a notification to people saying that there's just 3 days left for this assessment to be taken and there is a deadline to it. So you better take it in 3 days. So you send out a message saying 3 days left for the deadline, please complete it. It's like flooding the field. Same message goes out to many people. I see it. Well, yes, I'm busy. I will do it at some point in time. And so do most people. So if you were to actually now look at each one, Sam, Tim, and Jawahar, knowing fully well when they respond, what time of the day they respond, how they respond, you could craft out a message saying that there is 3 days left. 4,332 people have already done it. By doing this assessment, you have the opportunity to add 70 points more to your tally, which takes you closer to a goal or your gold tier. Suddenly it is of high relevance. And this is what that friendly coach used to do. Now, can you imagine this to be done at the scale of millions? Yes, please imagine this is a possibility. It is a deep tech possibility. You can do it with AI. and we'll show you how we do it. We do it on our platform. So it is all about delivering the right message to the right person at the right time. And that's what these nudges are about. It is not about flooding people with alerts and notifications and 25 of those in a day, but the system needs to intelligently filter out and prioritize those that are relevant for the person at that point in time. This is deep intelligence, and this is a deep tech problem. Next, you have an engaged bunch of people, but you need to also keep a pulse check, just like a doctor would hold his fingers on your wrist and do a pulse check. And by just taking a count, he can tell you what's wrong. Similarly, a simple pulse check on each individual, I stress the word each individual. Remember, I'm stressing the fact that it is a continuous engagement, it is a continuous intervention, it is happening continuously, not just one-off, not just sporadically in classes, but it is happening continuously during the flow of work. If you are able to capture these signals and have a pulse of each individual, you are able to do magic. And how is that magic possible? Now, I know through the pulse checks that I am not very strong at having understood the Dolby Atmos functionality, but I am cool with the new camera functionality because another device had it and this is an enhancement, so I can spiel about it. I know this, right? So when you do the knowledge check, you are now able to determine who is at what knowledge level and what specific atomic level of knowledge needs to be brought up for that individual. This is hugely empowering for a sales enablement manager whose task is to create experts about the product, whose task is not just to ensure that people are parroting out, but it is the ability to have a conversation for these sales reps in a very high demanding, smart customer environment that we are all in today. Imagine this and layer it with the fact that the system knows and can predict from the point that, oh, this particular topic about the cameras was done about 3 months back. So maybe you've forgotten. There is an erosion in your knowledge. And I would try and do a check continuously of how much the knowledge has eroded and be able to bring out predictably the sales readiness levels. This really empowers the sales enablement managers by giving them the right visibility, giving them the right control points. Imagine the gamification, imagine the drip feeding of content, imagine all these things, all these elements in your toolbox for you to turn the right levers and bring up the knowledge level up. System is doing it for you. This again is a deep tech challenge. This is beyond human activity, right? If you were to keep a watch on each of these minutiae for hundreds of people, do you think a sales trainer would be able to manage this? It is virtually impossible over a period of time. This is a solution for AI. And thereafter, being able to recommend the right content to be able to make that uplift in knowledge happen is absolutely vital. So these are the 5 best practices that we've been able to distill out through our learnings. And some of this might sound like science fiction, but it is a reality. We will show it to you how it is possible. So once again, to refresh, it is all about design, define, and setting the baseline. It is vital to have this baseline set. It is vital to know what knowledge you need to uplift. It is vital to know which needle you need to move how much. That's the first step. Second step is to ensure that you are delivering the right knowledge and you're doing it continuously over a period of time, not just one-off, but it is happening in a continuum. such that you are able to introduce topics, people are able to connect, build from those blocks of information, build knowledge, and then are reminded and refreshed, and then it stays. This is absolutely vital and important for people to have the confidence to have a conversation. Next, as a sales enablement head, sales enablement manager, you have the ability to channelize people's attention to the right topics of interest, excite them, and ensure that the right elements and the right knowledge is always top of mind. Again, this is vital because it aligns very strongly with the company's priorities, and the companies with a flurry of products, with the different schemes that are constantly happening, there is a lot of dynamicity in this space. So how would you able to do that is a very vital aspect. Nudge, nudge, nudge. Ensure that people don't feel that they are alone. Ensure that people feel that somebody is caring for them. Somebody is giving them that due attention. It is about each individual feeling and being given that individual attention. And at the end of the day, if you do not measure what you treasure, it is a big waste. It is important, again, to ensure that this measurement is a continuous paradigm, and you're continually measuring, and this then feeds back into this loop and keeps going, so that you are able to continuously boost your knowledge levels up and your sales readiness up to the appreciated level. Imagine you are a motorbike salesman and it's an enthusiast bike. You would want people to actually graduate to becoming literally Apple geniuses. You would want them to become valued advisors. It is vitally important to keep a pulse check on each individual and recommend them, ensure that they know where they are in their personal learning journeys, and drive them up the skill curve. So, time for another poll. I'll hand you, Chari, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, we'll do so. Thank you very much, Jawahar. Just for the attendees, I think we'll have another 5 minutes of presentation left after this poll. So please do stay on, and I look forward to answering questions which may be coming in. So let me do a poll. The poll is basically a poll on the best practice. Which best practice did you resonate with? No, which one did you resonate with? And you can choose multiple answers. You can choose one, or which one did you like the most? Which one did you feel, yes, would add highest value?
What do you feel will be the most impact, give you the most impact? And you can select as many. You could select all of them if you wish to. You could select a few of them if you wish to. We'd really like to hear your voice.
Great. Another minute. Okay, excellent. I'm ending the poll, and I'll share the results. So thank you very much. So really, it's a good mix. I think a lot of people feel that we need to drip feed knowledge regularly, which I think is a really good, important aspect. We have nudge, 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 and interest and stay in top of mind as the top ones, and of course, design and set the baseline. So you really have a good mix of answers here. Yeah, and we did notice measure to build what you treasure is the lowest, which is interesting and intriguing, because one of the key things is it's the most difficult thing to do, and that's something which we would like to share as a most critical aspect, which can actually help improve overall learning performance. Okay, back to you, Jawahar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So interesting, but I mean, we walk the talk. So we'd like to hear the feedback and see what people are thinking here. The measure dimension is is the bedrock. If you're not keeping a pulse check on people, then you can't recommend and you can't do the right stuff. But the outward expression of drip feeding, outward expression in the user experience of nudges is extremely vital as well. And that has come through very correctly. Thank you very much. So we have reimagined sales readiness. And what have we done? It's not just one thing. It is a blend of all those items. You can't just do one thing, but when you start off the gate, it is about assessing knowledge on those multiple dimensions and multiple parameters. You are adding rewards, you're adding intelligent nudges, and then you're ensuring that things are top of mind for people. And when you are calibrating the knowledge levels in multiple dimensions, it gives you an opportunity, the system an opportunity to recommend right and also assess right the next time. At the end of the day, it is all about continuous measurement and continuous improvement. It is a virtuous learning loop. It is about continuity. It is about making it happen constantly. This is obvious and it will give you an impactful business result. So let's give you a flavor of what we have on our platform. We talked about measurements and we talked about this being a deep problem. If you want to measure each micro dimension of an objective for each individual, it is not an easy task. It can give you vital insights. For example, it might tell you that person A is very good at selling premium products, but this person A is in a channel which doesn't have a customer footfall or customers of that nature of a product. It might be valuable for you to move that person where he could contribute most. So these are similar and small valuable insights that you keep getting. It is about predicting the right level of knowledge when you are launching a new product or when you are doing a scheme. You are looking at the right level of knowledge for people to be able to drive that home. And this is a vital aspect. By keeping a pulse check, knowing exactly who is where, and system then dynamically and autonomously driving that upskill is a real joy to watch. It is a real empowerment to the enterprise. It is a real empowerment to the people in charge as the sales enablement managers. We've talked about the quiz, and here is it helping you visualize. Immediately after the quiz, you've been shown a leaderboard. After the quiz, you've been talked about, okay, these are the recommended pieces of content that you need to go through to be able to enhance your knowledge. And after having done stuff, okay, you have 50 points. And now subsequently, where are you from a target perspective? Where are you from a reward perspective? So this is an expression on the user experience that we have been able to blend together social and behavioral science expertise and blending it for AI to perform at its best in this context. When you are engaging people constantly, if you give them a little bit of a variety, it helps. Reflect again on our own experiences on an app. Would you engage much with an app which is only text and very static versus something that is interactive, something that has a game-like experience? And most people love that little bit of an entertainment in their learning cycle. So if you are able to dish out interactive templates to be able to take these quizzes, you take away the humdrum and mundane and make these game-like experiences absolutely interesting. Mobile phones are in everyone's hands. Data plans are cheap. It is absolutely possible to scale this very, very economically. Tailwinds are right. The environment is perfect for companies to start jumping on this bandwagon to ensure that they have the new way of building sales readiness. They have a new way of not just ensuring people understand the brand and are able to parrot out, spiel out stuff, but are able to know the product in much greater detail so that they are valued as sellers by the smart buyers that they are interfacing with. So truly, we have reimagined sales readiness. Well, once again, so it's all about design, define, and set the baseline, drip feed knowledge, make it interesting, make it exciting, to keep it at the top of mind. You have all the levers to be able to do that. A very intelligent nudge framework to ensure that people are nudged with the right elements and making it extremely personal to drive action. At the end of the day, action means signals, signals means pulse, pulse means you are able to actually calibrate the knowledge levels and feed that back into this circular virtuous loop to be able to drive this. Now, you might be thinking and wondering, where do I get started? It is very easy to get started. Start off with just knowledge checks, and you would soon be tempted, knowledge checks and drip feeding your content to people. You would soon see the enthusiasm in your sales reps to actually want more, know more. And with the ability on a platform that brings you all these capabilities, all these levers together, it will just be a few buttons away for you to start on your journey in a very, very intelligent, very, very smart manner and very, very new age manner, to be able to do this cost effectively, to be able to do this at scale and build expertise at scale. So if you'd like to know more, do write into us at info@streamz.ai. We'd be happy to have a conversation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your feedback during the polls. Really appreciate your audience.
So, Jawahar, thanks everyone. And before we sort of close, there are a couple of questions which have come from the audience. So one interesting question which has come is, uh, you know, from Joseph George. Basically, the question is, what is your insight? Do sales leaders like to be setting up internal contests as a price of loyalty to a brand? Are Gen Z not more likely to work for themselves than an employer? What do you feel, Jawahar, with this question?
It's a very interesting question. Actually, you have many dimensions in that question. It is about the Gen Z attitude of wanting to be independent, wanting to be literally working in a gig environment. And you also have the motivation angle in terms of what will you be able to drive things top down. Now, I'd like to talk about the convergence of both these. Even if it is a gig worker, the gig worker works for a larger organization. And then it becomes even more of a challenge for that large organization to ensure that this gig worker is constantly knowledgeable. How would you do this rapidly is a key question. So if you provide an interesting way in which Gen Z actually consumes information, you have got a winner at hand. I think that's a key aspect. The applicability of AI-led, multi-dimensional solution that not just takes into account throwing content at people, but ensuring what motivates them, and you have built in those elements in there. Gen Z loves attention. So if you have elements that ensure that each of the 10,000 people are individually attended to, you again have solidified that winner in your hands. And of course, you are able to measure all this and see whether it is working. If it's not working, you have a full panel to be able to change the levers and do it real time to ensure that you are able to optimize their engagement. I hope I've answered this question,
Great.
Joseph.
Thank you. I think that was a good answer. There's another question on which I can maybe answer on what content integrates into Streamz AI. So Streamz AI has got a full content authoring capability. So we have templatized everything, and you can actually pull in, reuse existing content, for example, PowerPoint, PDF documents, or even web pages or Twitter feeds. All those can be integrated into a Streamz AI mobile enablement environment. So the from a content perspective, the templatized capabilities allow you to create content very easily, which can be rendered on any mobile, either on iOS or on Android platforms. And you don't have to worry about how well it is rendering. It will render properly. It will take care of the memory. It will take care of all those issues which normally exist. So it's very easy to use. You can create content in a couple of minutes and render it instantly and publish it instantly. That was the next question. The other question which is there was, Jawahar, one question that sort of came to my mind too, and it has come from other sources also, is, is this mobile sales readiness and micro learning the same, or is it different, or what do you feel?
Okay, let me give you my perspective on this. Sales readiness is all about driving confidence and ensuring that the sales rep is an expert. You make that person an expert. Now, how do you make that person an expert? By throwing him into a classroom? No, that doesn't work. It needs to be a continuous intervention. It needs to be a continuous engagement with that individual. And that continuity can happen ideally on a device, on a medium that is always with that person. And which is that device? It's a mobile device. So it is by default that sales readiness gets enhanced when you add the strong mobile dimension to it. Sales readiness has also been traditionally thought of as just training people and having a count of how many you've trained. But true sales readiness, the need of the hour, is to ensure that you create experts. It's not just about people who can spiel out the specs, as I keep saying. It's about creating that expertise. And that develops over a period of time. So you need that continuous engagement with the individual over a period of time. So that's the first aspect. Micro learning is nothing but learning in small bursts. Traditionally, what we have seen is I have a large LMS and a large piece of, multiple videos. I bite-size them or I make them into smaller chunks and I keep sharing them. Now, if there is no way for you to actually chunk them in atomic parts, and if there is no way for you to have an engaging conversation continuously, you will not meet your objectives. So by that, what I mean is, if you have a PDF, PowerPoint, large videos, and you determine that, okay, I am able to send these out at regular, or I'm able to crunch them such that the attention time or the consumption time for that is, instead of half an hour or a few hours, is just a few minutes, then you've got to ensure that it flows in a stream of messages, in a logical pedagogic stream, such that people are able to use each piece of information that you give to add to the knowledge base and build new knowledge, add to the knowledge base and build new knowledge, right? So literally, mobile sales readiness, or using the mobile phone as a key part and reimagining sales readiness, is a vital part to prepare experts as sales reps.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Jawahar. There's another question which has come, which is, what are the prerequisites for deployment of the Streamz Sales Enablement Platform? And maybe I can quickly answer that. Actually, the requirements are very simple. It is because we are a SaaS platform which runs on the cloud. It is a very quick and easy activity to deploy this platform. So you need to define what you're looking for, the number of users, and we can be very easily deployed very quickly. It's a self-serve platform, which really means that you can actually start using it and taking it forward by yourself with minimal training. And our customers have deployed us very, very quickly across 10,000, 20,000 people in a month's time. So it's a fast and quick deployment process. And there's another question on how many languages do we support? We support 31 languages at this very moment. It's been deployed, and we can discuss more language needs as we go forward. Excellent. So we have sort of answered many of the questions, and I don't think so there are any more questions. So thank you very much for attending our webinar. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and the 5 interesting best practices which we saw as we engaged 200,000 sales reps. And I think these are applicable even on a personal basis as you define just engaging with your own sales team.